where people are thinking investors are going to jump out of the residential property market. There's going to be a great wave of properties becoming available for sale, and maybe for the first home buyers, young, old, whatever, they're going to find themselves some bargains out there. Not so fast. Well, hello again, everybody. Today, what I wanted to talk about was a new monthly survey I've got up and running with Crocker's Property Management, looking at the opinions of residential property investors all around New Zealand. I've done the first survey, just released it, had about 1,000 or so people reply on that. And while one obviously can't tell all that much in terms of where things are trending from 1 month's observations, eventually, as the year goes by, we'll start to get some fairly useful information. But out of this first survey, there was actually something quite interesting when it comes to some of the anecdotes which are sloshing around ever since March 23 and the government's announcements about tax policy changes for property investment, where people are thinking investors are going to jump out of the residential property market. There's going to be a great wave of properties becoming available for sale, and maybe for the first home buyers, young, old, whatever, they're going to find themselves some bargains out there. Not so fast. Now, one result from the survey is I asked the investors, are you thinking about selling your property in the next 12 months? Now, I call this the spitting the dummy response. I get about 26% of people, of the investors responding, saying, yes, I'm going to sell my property in the next 12 months. But then right after that, I say, how long do you anticipate keeping your property for? Now, for that question, I give a whole range of options. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 to 10, over 10, or you're not going to sell at all. Now, the result there is interesting. 65% of people are saying they're either going to hold their property for over 10 years or they've got no intention of selling at all. And only 6% say they're only going to hold their property for up to the next 12 months. Now, obviously, that's a big difference, about a 20% difference between the 26% or so saying, I'm going to sell in the next 12 months. So be very careful when you're listening to some of these anecdotes about investors selling. Now, certainly some investors are selling. There are plenty of anecdotes, but what they're tending to do is get rid of their less desired properties. Maybe they're coming up for maintenance. Maybe they're just in locations they don't like the look of any longer. So there are some extra listings out there. Some of the investors are selling simply to reduce their debt levels, partly because they've lost the tax deductibility, which naturally in the past was an incentive to carry a lot of debt on your residential property, and maybe because they're starting to think about some of the increases in interest rates going to come along just down the track. But no wave of great selling coming forward then. Just a second thing I wanted to briefly mention, the housing market is influenced by the jobs market. If there's a lot of jobs on offer, then people are going to feel more inclined to buy a property. We know that job numbers in New Zealand grew by about 0.5% in both the December quarter, end of last year, and the March quarter of last year. We've got a monthly survey of filled jobs, the Stats New Zealand call it, and they have data out to May. It still shows good rising job numbers, and so we're probably looking at another 0.5% plus increase in job numbers in the June quarter, just ended here in New Zealand. And that says to me that to the extent the labour market does influence the willingness of people to buy houses, that's still going to be fairly strongly supportive of the housing market over the coming year. All the best, everyone.